world-renowned pollster, John Zogby. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
How's that for an introduction? That was pretty good. I like it. So a couple of points. The America in the age of disruption.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we are. We are in the age of disruption. I don't think there's any other way to look at it, right?
No, it is. It's long-term, but this is the eye of the needle right now.
So, interestingly, the president yesterday tweeting out several times while he's on this working vacation, going after Blumenthal, a senator on his military service. I remember when he went after John McCain, and didn't we all just look at that and say, wow, he just destroyed his chances? And that didn't turn out to be true. Are we as Americans becoming... Are we becoming annoyed by this, or is it just this is the way of this president?
It's the way of this president, but all measurements get thrown out the window by the standard rules of engagement. This is a guy who would not have been elected, would have been forced from the campaign, then from office. You can't even say that this tweeting actually helps him with his own base, as he himself claims, because you look at the numbers closely, and overall, his approval rating is 10 points below the numbers that he was elected with. 46% back in November. He's at about 36% average in the month of August, and he's lost support among independents, and he's starting to lose support over the last few weeks among his own base. And so the short answer is this is not really working for him.
The polling that has come out, I think it shows the president's approval numbers at 38%. What was interesting, and I don't have I was trying to pull it up, I don't have the exact numbers, but despite that number, and despite the fact that when asked, Republicans, the number is pretty high of Republicans that don't trust what is said from the White House, whether it's the president talking or it's the White House talking. They don't believe what they're hearing. Yet, the number of Republicans who support this president is still up into the 80% range.
Yep.
Well, that's it. So you
how do you explain that?
How do you explain that? I don't understand it.
It's the fear of the alternative more than anything else. Remember, a good deal of folks who support Donald Trump were doing so because of their strong feelings towards Hillary Clinton. And so, if he's at now 72% who don't trust him to tell the truth,
yeah,
and 72% who do not believe that he's fit to handle the crisis in North Korea. On the other hand, are they ready to jump ship and to support a Democrat? And the answer is no.
Speaking of North Korea, how do you solve this problem? They say we'll never give up these nukes. They continue to move. It doesn't seem that China has any real control there. We're in the middle of something that's probably more tense than anything we've seen since the Cold War.
Yeah, again, someone who does not play by the normal rules of engagement. His father didn't, and his grandfather before that. This kid, though, appears to be even more special than that, maybe not having grown up at all in what you might call the real world. But there's a culture, let's say a pathology in North Korea where all they've ever heard about is the supreme leader and their hatred since the Korean War, towards the United States. So this is one of those things where there's no love for the United States, no love for the notion of America, and this kid is sticking the needle in the eye of the United States, and to some degree, his folks love it. However, were China to take a strong stance and enforce sanctions, even increase sanctions, you'd be looking at a massive exodus of the very unhappy North Koreans into China, and a global crisis of huge proportions. North Korea is about 23, 24 million people. That would be a hell of a crisis. How do you resolve it? Honestly, I don't know, except a global noose. Where Russia and China actually are involved as well. And, for their own reasons, China is reluctant and Russia is reluctant to engage as strongly as we are.
I want to hit two other issues before we're done. You had a column in the Washington Examiner. To quote Patton, talk about this quote and how it relates to this presidency, and really in the last week or a couple of weeks for President Trump.
Oh, you want me to quote Patton?
The quote, of course, is, "Success is the bounce after hitting bottom." I find it to be a great quote.
Yeah, it is, except there's still a jackhammer there. I mean, I don't know that he's hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he has hit bottom. These numbers are not only low; they're low for a president only 6 months in his job. Can he bounce back? Can anything start to look up? Well, let's see. He's reorganizing his White House, getting more discipline. I don't know. He's still tweeting in the middle of the night, though.
Yeah, because the thought is this chief of staff is going to have control, and that's the only way he would come in. Yet here we are on Monday, and we're getting military tweets out there. All right, one final, and this kind of has come up a few times. Rob, who is a listener, says, "You can't believe the polls. Look how wrong the polls were for this presidency, this past election." And we've talked about this. The polls really weren't that inaccurate after all.
No, the polls were good. Learn how to read the polls not as to the precise 0.1%, but rather the directional signals. And the overall polls, the national polls, had Hillary leading by 2 to 3 percentage points on average, which is about where the election, where it ended. And if you look at the key battleground states, especially the ones that Trump ultimately won, you'll see the directional signals were very clear. Hillary going from the 2 Sundays before the election with 9, 10, 11-point leads in New Hampshire, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and those leads dissipated until right before the election. Either Trump was leading by 1 in North Carolina, Hillary by 3 in Pennsylvania, but the pattern was established.
And if you really look at where the polls have been since during this beginning of his presidency, it has shown that base, President Trump's base, has really not shifted at all, and that's probably very accurate.
It is, although you are starting to see that base be chipped away at a bit.
Interesting. John Zogby, we always appreciate it. John Zogby Strategies, and we'll talk again real soon.
Okay, take care, Bill.